So we will be doing JavaScript today, and first and foremost, we let's bear in mind that JavaScript is a I think what would be the easiest way to put it? It's a um it's a front end language. It's language for the browser. At least that's where it initially started from. So the easiest way to understand JavaScript is through the browser. So from the browser, anyone you can basically um, experiment with JavaScript without having to need any major setup. The only time you will need a major setup is when you want to use the browser, use JavaScript outside of its original home, which is the browser. So at that point, you will need a configuration to set up. But minus that, you don't need any configuration. Okay, so I will open up a browser at least. I don't want to give more of history. I want to give more of usage. What are we doing? How do we use it? Why do we use it? And then hopefully in the future we can dabble with DOM manipulation and also with backend development. Maybe give introduction to React also from this, and then also maybe how to work with Node, how to build APIs with Node. And then maybe we could branch into all these, but majorly our target is to make you understand what JavaScript is all about and why and how to use it and understand exactly what's happening there. Okay, so I'm going to open a new tab. I think I could just use google.com. So I think this should be sufficient for whatever I want to do. Just bump it up a bit. I think I can hide this. Okay, so for you to see your console, the easiest thing for you to do in any browser is just look for the inspect button. So from the inspect button, I would make this larger because this is where we're working mostly. From the inspect, you have a full development environment at your disposal. So this is your HTML, which also you can also write code here. Strangely, you could modify this. So I could find this because this is an image. Our Google logo is an image. Okay, let's look for something that's a text that we can edit. So I could find this and input value is Google search. I don't like the Google search. I would like Google Translate. So just to tell you how, yeah, so that is that. So it's quite easy to interface with your browser here. So the console is where you'll be using often to work with JavaScript. So I know most people know how to work with JavaScript from here. So that is where you use JavaScript mostly. But I'll also show you how to use JavaScript outside of control and use it in sources. Sources is a very powerful tool, and we'll try to over the course we'll see how to work with it. Okay, so first things in JavaScript, being a programming language, it means that you'll be able to. A programming language is something you use to tell the computer how to behave or how to respond to input, and then provide the right output for every input given to it. That's basically what a programming language is. You handle users' input and provide desirable output. I think that would be a basic summary for that. And so because of that, I think the primary thing you could do in any programming language will be to declare variables and to output in the console. So variable declaration is to hold in values, and then output is to show the user whatever you have held in your variables. So a variable, then what is a variable? A variable is a container that holds values. So let's say I want to handle the age of my users. I want to handle the age of my users. All I have to do is to hold a variable called age, and then show that to the user that this is the age I have stored. Or maybe you're holding a count. Maybe you're holding a count of how many times someone logs in. So the counter can just be a variable, a container holding that number. So whenever someone logs in, you can update that counter, or that variable, that container. You can update it with a new value it should hold. That would be the best summary, a summary for what a variable actually is. So let's check that out. What to declare variables. So declare variables in JavaScript, you use var. So var is the standard way of declaring variables, though this has been modified over the years to something else, which we'll also see. So I'm going to create a variable called age, and I will just assign 20 to it. So when creating a variable, this is called variable initialization. So why is it initialization? Because of the fact that I gave it a value. So I declare a variable called age, and then I added a single equals to that is going to add 20, make this 20, insert this 20 into the container of age. So this is a simple variable declaration, and so I can access this age simply by calling this age here, or because we're already in the console, I don't need to do console.log here, but let's behave like we're not in the console. So I can simply do age, and I will see have 20 here. So that is how to create a variable in JavaScript. Another way to create a variable is to create a constant using const. So one thing you observe is that when I do age and I change age to, let's say, 30, there's no issue. My age is now 30. No issue at all. So another way to create a variable is const, and as the name sounds, const gives you the idea of constant. So it gives you an idea that it's something that shouldn't change. So if I create a variable called, let's say, time, and I say 20, let's say time is in seconds, 20 seconds, and this becomes time. So I now have time. This is 20. I can't assign time anymore. So if let's say I want to change it to 30, so you can see I don't have that ability anymore. As long as this context exists, as long as this programming context exists. So what would be a programming? What am I referring to as a programming context? So a programming context is whatever place that your code. So you have a group of code. You have your constants, you have your functions and everything. Whatever is their parent holding them, that is the context in a very basic way. So example, let's say I have okay, I think I'll get back to that as we go. I don't want to jump a lot because it's farther down the line, but you can't change this. Just bear in mind that you can't change this constant here at any point in time. Then you can redeclare this, right? So you can set it constant, the same name, and redeclare this. I can do this because because I'm in the console basically. In a code where you already have like a file, a JavaScript file, you won't be able to do this. You won't be able to redeclare this. So let's try to run this from somewhere else. So snippet. So when you come to your browser, you have element console, there's source. So from source, if you look at these arrows here, you will see something called snippets. So snippet is like a code editor within your browser, hidden within your browser. So from here, I can create new JavaScript snippets and I can run them on the browser. To run them, you just use command enter and that will run it for you. So you don't need any editor, you have a perfect editor here. So I want to use snippets so we can have more realistic understanding of how things work here in JavaScript. So I'm going to call this. So that's going to be lesson.js. So we'll call this lesson 1, being our first class, .js. So this snippet would basically is a constant. Everything we could do in the console we can do here. So I'm going to create a new constant called time equals to, let's call it 10. So if I run this, there's no error. So you can see. And also, just to note, whatever variable you create here, you have access to it here. So let's say I create timer here. Then I save this. I have access to timer here. Timer. Okay. Do I have to run it first? Okay, I think I have to run it. Yeah, so I have to run it here first. So I now have access to timer here from here. Okay, so this is timer. So let's say I want to reassign timer equals to 20. And then I run this. So you can see I already have an error. Assignment to a constant variable. That means you can't reassign a constant. So you can even see the error here. So let's also do what we did previously, where we want to give the same name equals to 20, because it seems to work the last time. So if I run this, you can see I can't use the name timer anymore. It's already defined. So this poses two problems. So it means that for a constant, first of all, for any variable, your name must be unique. That means in every file or in every context, which I will explain later on, you must have the same name. You must have different unique names. That means this can be timer 1, but it can never be timer anymore. So we can't have same variable names ever at any point in time in the same context. Then also you can't reassign a constant. So it means that if I want to reassign this, I will have to use var, or I'll use the third option, which is let. So let is another way of defining variable. So we have 3 methods: let, var, and let var and const. So var can be edited, let cannot be modified. Let can be modified, but const cannot be modified. So that are the 3 ways we can create variables in JavaScript. So we can reassign with let. So I just have to do timer equals to 10. So when I run this and I come over here, if I put timer, I get okay, identifier has already been created. Okay, I think we are having issues here. Timer. So the console we had time initially, and so when we run it on same console, we are having the same issue. So let's see this, save this. So time has already been declared and time is 10. So if I change this to 30 and I run this, time is 10. Yeah, so it's not, the console is not allowing you to do that because I already ran before in this console. So we need to switch context or change the name. Okay, let's use age. Let's use length. So let length be this and length equals to 20. So if I run that, I have length equals to 20 showing this from whatever I run in line 3. So we'll check our length and we'll say our length is 20. So length is 20 rather than 30 that was initially declared. So let allows us to update the variables of our constants, or allows to update the variables that have already been assigned to it. The values have already been assigned to it. So we'll move ahead from there. So let's see how to work with some of the variables. So some of the variable types. So we have data types or variable types. So the data types we have number, string. We have for primitive. So we have two types of data types. We have the primitive. And for primitive, we have number, data. What else? We have boolean.
Boolean.
Yeah. Then we also have undefined and null. Yeah. Undefined, null, and then symbol. Yeah, I think that's the last one. The recently added one. So we have symbol, undefined, and null. Yeah, so these are the basic types that we have, the primitive type that we have in JavaScript. And then for non-primitive, so we have an array, object. We have object and array, but an array is actually an object, but we can put that separately. And then you can create abstract, you can create other data types from these two. You can create other data, complex data structures from this. So for types, for number, so for number we can say let num equals to 0. So 0 is a number down to whatever number you can think of. But also JavaScript allows us to create numbers as big number, and big numbers can be defined as, let's say, 20, 200 million. So this is also accepted in JavaScript as a number with this underscore, because JavaScript understands that you want to make it readable. So if we run this script and I do big number, so you can see it puts it normally, but here it makes it readable for you to see, and you can easily know what is here. So there's no difference between these two. They're actually the same thing. And you can also do that for small numbers. So basically I can do it for just let's say 300, 3000. So this would still work. So if I do num, it's still 3000. So it makes it easy for you to read numbers. So also for numbers in JavaScript, most languages have float, double, but JavaScript everything is a number. So there's no really difference between any of them. So I can also have floating point numbers, and it's just 3.456 or whatever I want to add to it. So there's no differentiating factor between a floating point number and an ordinary number in JavaScript. Okay, so something else I want to add for number. So in JavaScript, you can know any type of variables you're working with by just using the type of operator. So I think I can just introduce this earlier. So type of any variable will give you what that variable is. So I think we can just use it directly in the console. So if I say type of num, so we can see it's a number. So if I also say type of big num, so we also see it's a number. And type of float is also a number. So they are all numbers and there's no difference in them. JavaScript does not really want to know, is this a floating point number? How many much memory is it taking up in your system or in memory? JavaScript does not really care for you to define that from the variable type. Okay, so so that is an example of what what numbers are. So we would now define for strings. So for a string, so a string is whatever is in quote. But before I go to string, I want to show us variable namings, how to name variables in JavaScript. Like I think it's a major concept, seeing that you name variables a lot. Okay, process. So naming a variable is very important because we already started doing that already. We started doing that. So we named this num, big num, and float. So this is just normal casing. You can't really know a casing here, but there are three ways of doing naming a variables in JavaScript, at least in programming language, I think majorly. So we have one of them. I wouldn't say this is all that is available, but this is just a few, or those that are majorly used. And one of them is the snake case. So snake case is basically as it looks. The first word underscore the next word. That is snake case. So this 200,000 is also in snake case, but you wouldn't call that snake case because it's a syntax that JavaScript have made to make life easy for you when working with big numbers. So, but that is an example of how snake case is. So rather than, because in JavaScript you can't name a variable. Let's say I want to say number of fruits. So if you look at this cannot work in JavaScript because JavaScript is looking at, in any language at all, because it's looking at it together as a sentence and is looking for each of these as variables. It's trying to wonder what are these. It's not seeing them together. It's looking at them separately. So because of that, we try as much to make our names sensible, because the reason why you're putting number of fruits is because you want it to be sensible. You want the variable name to be sensible. You could have as well just done nf, right? Nf will mean number of fruit, but it doesn't really tell you what is happening here, because if I pick up your code and I look at what is nf, I don't know what nf is. I don't even understand where to go from. But seeing number of fruit, it makes more sense to me. So, but because of that, we have to look for ways to write it together to make it one word. And that's where snake case came about. One of the ways to do it is through snake case. So this is still readable as number of fruits, but it's now one word. It's just a single word. So another one we have is the kebab case. Yeah, kebab. So I think the kebab case is very similar to snake case, but it's simply this. So you just put a dash. Yeah. Some languages don't accept this. Some it's difficult for some don't accept this, but yeah, but most accept it. So yes, this is not widely used. It's rarely used. I think it's more of snake case, and the other one we're going to talk about now, which is camel case. So the camel case is the next one, which just like the name sounds, there's a camel. So the case, the next word is capital. So small capital, small capital. So that way you can easily know what's happening. Camel case. So let's say I was doing number of fruit as camel case. You would see, so this is going to be number of fruits equals to, let's say, 2000. These two variables are not the same. They are different. Even though they are the same words, but they're actually different, because variables in JavaScript are case sensitive, which means if you wrote it in in capital letters, you can't find it with small letter. That means if I've written it in capital letter, I can't identify it as a small letter value. The way I wrote it exactly is the only way I can access it. So that's a very common source of bugs, because you would put something as simple as float, and maybe you're not looking for float, something like this. Now this is going to fail because this and this are not the same. Even though the letters are the same, they are not actually the same to JavaScript. So that is camel case for you. Camel case. Then the next one we have is Pascal case. I don't really know why it is called Pascal case. I don't think I know why it's called Pascal case. Maybe the person that designed it was Pascal. I think I will check that out later. But Pascal case is very similar to camel case. The only difference is that the first word is, so in camel case the first word is small. Then you can keep adding capital letter again for every next word. Camel case is, Pascal case is the same thing. The only difference is that the first word is capital letter, which means that every word in Pascal case is capital letter. In camel case, every word is capital, start with the capital, except for the first word. But Pascal, everything starts with the capital apart from the first word. So that way, that is so you have to be aware of that. Those two differences when working with camel and Pascal. Then the last one I would give as an example would be, I wouldn't really call it a type of naming variables, but it's used mostly for naming constants. So constants are words that you don't plan to change at any point in time. Maybe you want to use it across your app. Let's say, what is the value of naira to dollar? It's 860, 870 or whatever. So you declare that value somewhere, and then you can now reuse it across your application app, across your code. So that would be something like this. So you can just say value, or maybe let's say naira to dollar. So most times it follows any of these case in here, but just all caps lock. So just for you to be aware of that, something like so let's say 860 or 870. So something similar to this. So this cannot be used to do other stuff that you want to do. So okay, that's fine. So also, when working with numbers, the variables on this left side can also be an expression. That means whatever when working with any variables, it can either be an expression or just a single value here, which means I can say what is the price. Let's say one fruit is $1. So I want to know the cost of 2,000 fruits in naira, right? So that will simply be total cost equals to number of fruits times. So this is for times. I think we'll get to that today. Times the naira to dollar, and this is going to give us total cost, which I can now do console.log. Remember, console.log is to put out something in the console for you to see. And if I run this, we should get one. Okay, I think this is 1.7 million naira. Yes. So for the cost of 2,000 fruits, if they each cost 870. So yeah, so that's is another way of defining variables. So it could be an expression, it could be on the function on the other end, it could be just a value, a data type, single data type on the other end, on the right side of the expression. Okay, so we'll go to strings. So what are strings? Strings are just the same way they sound. Just the same way it is a value or a word. It could be a word, a character, but it's basically a word. Something like hello, hi, name. Somebody's name is a string. Someone's name is a string. Someone's address is a string. A bio on a Twitter post on a Twitter profile is a string. Also, the text in a tweet is a string. So those are examples of string in JavaScript. That's how we store those kind of stuff in programming language in general. So you create a string and then you add those kind of value data types in it. Bear in mind that the data types, why we call these data types, are because they are how you want to store the information that you want to store. So basically, based on the information type you want to store into the system, or you want to work with in the system, that's what kind of type you use to save them. So for a string is as simple as const name, but to use a string, you use a quote. You either use a single quote or a double quote. So we'll use two of them. So we can say the name is Georgetown. Then we can say the address. I'll use double quote for this. Somewhere in the cosmos. So you can see within this place, I can put spaces, because words will need spaces, right? So within here, I can put all the space I want to put somewhere in the cosmos. Okay, so that's the address. And so in the bio, there's another way to add strings. And that way to create a string is using a backtick, but it's usually used to create template strings. So it's useless if you're not going to add something to it. But we would see more of that. I will just use it to create for now, but we'll see more of that later on. So I'll just say bio, and then I'm going to just say this is a backtick, and I'll just say here to share some okay, if that makes sense. So that's the bio, but these three are all the same thing. They're all strings. So let's run this, and then we do type of name, so we can see string. And then if I do type of bio, so we can see this is a string. So these three are all strings, and these are multiple ways of creating strings. Is any question before I go on? Also, I would share links to help you read up some of this stuff. But I'm just trying to lay a foundation quickly so that we can have an idea of what we are doing, basically. So we can have an idea of what we are doing when we start moving. So we want to move fast, but we want to move gradually fast. We want to just move fast very quickly, something like that. So yeah, so when working with strings, so we're going to work with so I want to do talk about how to work with strings and numbers before we now get to Boolean. Yeah, before we get to Booleans. So talk about how to work with strings and numbers. So for numbers, we have the arithmetic performing mathematics, basically. Arithmetic. That had to spell. I think I'm correct. Okay, so we have addition. I think that should be addition, subtraction, multiplication. So addition, we all know it is just plus. Subtraction, minus. Multiplication, on your keyboard, same word, star. That is shift 8. Division is slash. Then we have something else called modulus. Let me bring that to a new line. Modulus. Yeah, before I continue, what I'm using to type this, if you observe, the colors are different from the original stuff. I skipped that totally. It's called a comment. So these are comments. This is a comment. So this is a comment, right? So comment are things that the system or the language will not process. It will ignore it. It's for you. It's for human understanding, for the human being who is reading the code to understand what is going on with the code. So that's what a comment is. So there are two types of comment. We have a single line comment just like this, which you can add even at the end of a variable here. So this is a number, or multi-line comment just like this one here, which is to start it, you do // within, so // star, and then in between it you can type anything, and it's not going to it's going to, from the beginning to the end, is going to be classified as a comment. So this is a block comment. It's a writing comment in block. So single line and multi-line, you can put that way, single line and multi-line comments. So modulus, back to this, modulus, it's division with a remainder. So it's more like 3 divided by 2. What is it? It's 2 whole number remainder 1, right? Sorry, 1 whole number remainder 1. So that 1 that is the remainder becomes the result of a modulus. So another example is 7 divided by 3. So the whole number in 7 is 6. So basically 7 divided by 3 is 2 whole number, 2 raised to the power 1. So the result of the modulus of 7 and 3 will be what? Will be 1, that remainder. So it returns the remainder after a division. And it's very important when working with numbers. You would see places where it can be used, something like calculating the even number, and also for some other complex algorithms that you want to work with to move around stuff. So the value is a percentage sign. So that percentage sign means modulus in arithmetic. Also, we have other operators. So these are arithmetic operators, but we have other operators called the bitwise operators, and they are more like when working with it's more like gates and or non gates. We did, those that did computer science will be aware of this, or if you did computer science at any point, you should have come across that, but we won't go through that in this course or today at all. We'll come across it later on, we'll come to it later on, and then by then we have some level of understanding, so we can be able to understand that better. So using this, so let's just play around with numbers. So example, I'm creating a number. So I want to create a number. So let's say it's 20. So this is a whole number, right? A positive number. I can also create a negative number. And I'll say minus 20. So this is a negative number. So if I add these two numbers together, number plus number negative, this should give us 0, right? So if I do add gives us 0, because this is this is 2 plus minus 20, so basically 0. So that is, so basically every rule of mathematics works here. And then also when working with large operations, you have to remember the rule of BODMAS. So I know we have come back to maths. For those that dreaded maths, we are here. So but we won't stay long here. So BODMAS, so basically brackets off, but you will probably not see off, so let's remove off. So bracket of division, multiplication, addition, and subtraction. They follow in that order. So for example, let's say we want to do tests. to test this. And I do 20 plus 4 times 5 minus 4 divided by 2. So if we are to answer this question off the top of our head without using BODMAS, I think we'll probably have 24 times 5 minus 4 divided by 2. Most times those things can be correct sometimes because of how multiplication and additions relate to each other. But okay, let's do 24. 24 times 5, that's 125. Then 125 minus 4, that's 121. 121 divided by 2, so 60.5. So the reason why I did it separately, I'm not just write everything together, is because even your system, you will just throw it into its own core language, and it's going to solve it using BODMAS. So this is 38 when you solve it, right? So 38 is what that's supposed to be the answer. So let's run this, and test should be 38. Yeah. So test 38. So that's correct. So because what it does is just like we have said, this is 20 plus this is 20, right? So this is 20 plus 20, and then this is so 22 plus 20 minus 2. So then it now does addition first, which is going to give you 40 minus 2, and then that's 48. So this is the process which it took. So it did this middle first and this. But let's say I want it to do this first and then do this. What would I do? I will have to do const test1 equals to, I have to put the bracket, bring the b bracket. So I'm going to say 20 plus 4 times 5 minus 4. So it's basically going to process them in order. So this should give us what we had before, what we calculated before. Oh, this 12. We get 24 times. Okay, this. Okay. If we want the one we got before, so this is correct. But if we wanted the one we got before that we did manually, we would have to do something similar to this. I would just have to copy this. Test2. So we'll start from here. We'll wrap everything here in a bracket. Then we wrap everything here in a bracket. Then we wrap everything here in a bracket. So this should give us that. Test2. Seriously? Okay. So 20 plus 4, 24 times 5 minus 4 divided by 2 is 58. Oh, yes, it's 58. So that's the correct value. I don't know what we calculated previously, but this is the correct one. So you can see with the bracket, I'm able to get different values because of the fact that I mapped it the way I want it to be. So that's one thing you must bear in mind when working with numbers. Also, we have access to some functions in the math library. In most languages, you need to import the math library, but we don't need to do that in JavaScript. We just need to call math square root. So we have square root. So all these methods are available inside of the math library. So we have truncates to truncate values, tan h, tan, square root 1, 2. I've never used this 2, but square root, sine, normal to sine, to round off, to get random number to the power of pi, minimum value of, max value of, log 2. So basically, most of the things that you will use in mathematics. So I have absolute value of 1/20 of this. So let's put this in ABS. Okay, so if I save this and then I call ABS, So you can see the minus is gone, and then we have an absolute value of 20. So there's another way to remove minus from stuff. The other ways to do it, maybe you can just multiply by -1. It still does the same thing for you. But yeah, I don't think I use this to remove minus, but you could use this. It's also available. So we also have square roots. Square root. It's going to give you maths dot square root of any number you give to it. I don't know, something random and large, and it should efficiently calculate it for us. So yeah, that is the square root. So it's works perfectly fine. Then let's try modulus of something. So let's say mod 10 modulus 3. So after I divide 10 by 3, what will be the remainder? So that should be 1. So mod should be 1. So that's working with numbers. You can basically do any kind of math stuff you want to work with. It's perfectly there. So now we're going to go to strings and then do a little bit of string before we do boolean. I think we can finish up primary can finish all the primitive types today. So we have the name, address, and bio. So let's say we want to work with this. We want to join two strings together. So we have a couple of ways of doing that. So one of the ways to do it is using the concatenation. That's using plus. So we could do something like name sentence. So I can say name plus bio, right? And this should give us these two stuff together. So I can now have sentence. So you can see George Tune here to share. So you can see that the fact that you can see here that there's no space in between. So we have to do everything manually. So but I can put a string here, say I am this, and I am, yeah, so I put the space here, put the comma, put the space, and put the space at the end. So this is me building a sentence. So you can see, okay, I didn't put a space here. So you can see I am George and I'm here to share some galactic spices. So this is one way of joining strings together. Another way of doing that is using template string. So template string is what we already saw previously in line 64, but I think it's one of the best way of doing anything like this. It's easy, very straightforward to work with. So remember that these values here are variables already. So you just see I just did a plus here, but they are variables already. So here we'll just do I am, put my space. Now I want to bring in this name into this sentence. So all I have to do is to put a $sign and 2 braces here. And I can put that name here, then space, then comma, space, I am, then I put a $sign again, then I put the bio. So with this is same thing as this, but much neater and much more easy to understand. So most times I go for this, but you're also free to go for this. It's same thing. So if I run this and I check templates, we see the same thing, perfectly the same thing. Another thing we have to consider when working with strings is we have talked about template string. So another thing we have to consider is we have talked about template string. We have talked about concatenation, that's using the plus. String concatenation using the plus. So another thing we can do is to use a string within a string. So let's say for instance I want to report something like that. So inside here, I want to use a single quote, and I said, I am my father's child, something like this. So, and I want to put a quote here. Let's try to run this. So you can see it breaks. It tells you unexpected S at the end, because this quote here, this string here, automatically closes with this. So this, everything here is now I'm no longer inside of the string. So to make this not the closing of this entire string, we use what is called an escape character. So we escape that string. So to do that, you just use a forward slash. So by doing a forward slash, it's going to say this is a quote, but it doesn't break this entire string. So by running that, and then I check for report, so you will see you just have a quote inside of here, not a slash quote. So that's an escape string. It's not this other way, it's forward. So it goes this other way. So that's an escape string. And also, but you can also do this rather than using an escape string. You can also just use a double. So let's say you want to put your quote as single quotes, then you use a double quote to wrap it together. So something like so you can see that this does not complain. So if I this is name, so I'll just put report 1 here. So if I look for reports 1, so you can see it doesn't complain, it's the same thing. Just uses a double quote. So if you also observe in the father's child, it converts the single quote to a double quote, so as to use this inside of here. So you can see it did that by itself. Also you can do it the other way around, which means I can come here and say tests string, and I'll do a single quote, and then do something like this, right? Something like this. And we should still be able to work. So you can see it wraps this around this. So let's say you want to also put a string here, another string here. Though this means nothing, I would have to escape it then, because I already have a single quote around here and then double quote inside here, so I have to escape this. If not, I'll have to escape this too. So yeah, so that's just working with strings and quotes. Any question? I hope I didn't any question? Okay, so that's fine. So also in the template string, this where this name is, which are variables, it could contain anything. It could contain anything. It could contain expressions, which means I am this and I weigh so I can just do age times 10. So if I run this and I go for template again, so you can see I did the times multiplication within there. So you can see 300. So age is 30 plus 10, that's 300. So you can perform complex, more elaborate calculation just within the template, or you can make it into a variable and then use the variable within the template string. Okay, so I think that's most of it for string. Working with string, escaping characters, and so on. Also, you can create multiple lines in string using the escape character. So you can have this is a new line / new line, This is a tab, /t is also a tab. So this is a new line, this is a tab. So if I save this and I do text string, oh no, didn't work. Disappointed. Okay, so why didn't it work? That's not this, it's like this. Let me see. It didn't work. Not sure why it's not working here. But /t in a string, okay, I'll get back to you on that. But this is we have escape characters in string, and T is for tab, and N is for new line. Does it work only inside of HTML? I don't think so. Okay, so let's move forward from there. Let's move forward from there. I think it's mostly just for escaping quotes. So I think I might have tangled something up. Okay, so moving from there, we have boolean. So boolean. So what's a boolean? A boolean is just simply true or false. Nothing else. So true or false. Yeah, it's saying the same thing. So you can say const is old, false, is const is hungry, true. Okay, so also we can, so this is a variable, a boolean variables. Which one we start working with conditionals, this is what we're going to use for conditionals. You have to use true or false for conditionals. So to know, should I go forward or should I not go forward? Should I open or should I close? So you use that to make such decisions. So this is a truth or false variable. Also, you could assign is tired just by maybe using these values in their true instead of false state. For example, we want is tired is if the person is old and hungry, then we say he's tired. So if old, so when you put this as a variable, you're saying you want this value in its true form. Okay, and so just by putting this and here, this is going to be forced to be in its true form, or if it's false, then it ignores it, and then it's hungry. So we have these two values. So if this is true and this is true, then this person is tired. So if I run this will show false. The person is not tired. So, but if we say, okay, the person is old but not hungry, then he's tired. So we just need to put exclamation mark here. We'll see this more later on. Put exclamation mark, which means not hungry. This exclamation mark here is just simply saying not. That means if this guy is true, negate it. And if it's only when it is falsy that this guy is, we will agree that this is going to happen. So if I run this, that's going to be is tired. Tired, and that is false. Wait, it should be true. Okay, he's hungry is true here. So if I change this, he's hungry to false, then this should become true. Okay. So it's old, false is hungry. So it's hungry is false. Oh, so if he's hungry and if he's old, or he's not old, he's not old. So we have to change this to true. So we said if he's old and he's not hungry, then he's tired. So it means we have to change this to true, and then we have true here. So just to explain some of the things that are happening here. So when you use AND operator, so this is the AND operator to compare two things together. It's used mostly for booleans to compare if to compare two booleans, truly or false boolean. So in AND, if true and true meets, you would have true. I know this might be bringing some CSS back, so, CS computer science back. So if false and true, we have true. If it is true and false, we have true. And then if it is false and false, this is only when, oh, sorry, this is false. Sorry, I think I'm tired now myself. So yeah, so let's get back to it. If it is true and true, it's true. If it is false and true, that means one of them is false, then it is false. Then if it is true and false, then it is false. Then if it is false and false, then it is also false. Then we have the OR operator. OR operator operation. It uses this symbol, this thread symbol. So it's in / shift / will give you this. So this is the OR operator. It's used to say this or this. So true or true is equals to true, obviously, because one of them is true. True or false is equals to false. It's equals to true, sorry. At least one of them is true. Then true, false, or true is equals to true also. And then false or false is equals to false. So for this, it's only true when everything is true. And then for this, it's only false when everything is false. So you can see the relationship between the two of them. For experiment, you can just test in your browser in the console. True is true, then true false. Oh boy, forgot to take that out. So true false is false, but here true or false is true. So you can play around this in the browser to verify how those things work. So you can also build out complex, more longer. So when I mean complex, that means something very unattainable. I mean that you could put more. So we just have two operations here, two booleans here. You can have more, and then you can build them together, and you can also work with them with braces, with brackets, which means that I can have true or false, right? And true. All right, so this is going to give you true, because true or false means true is going to come out, and then without true it's going to be true. So if this is false, it's going to be false, because two of them are supposed to be true. Both ends are supposed to give you true in a AND, right? So you can mix them up together to get the desired result that you wish to get. That is it for false, for boolean. So we'll go to undefined. So undefined is a special variable. Undefined and null are special variables in in JavaScript. Null is when nothing is provided. Undefined is when nothing is defined, when it is not defined. So let's say I have let's on UND. Let's just call UND. Now I didn't assign any. So you observe everywhere we did, we always assign a value, a data value to this. Now there's no value assigned to this variable. So this variable does not have any value to it. So JavaScript is going to assign a special variable to it called undefined. So if I don't need to log, just save this and I look for UND, so you can see we have undefined. The value is undefined. So by default, it becomes undefined. Now, null is when the value, so null is a value that you can assign by yourself. It's not the same thing as undefined, right? It represents when you intentionally don't want to put data in that place. So let's say I don't want to assign undefined for this by the system. I want to show that this guy is null for now. I mean, this guy is not available at the moment. Then I will use this variable is not available at the moment. So I will use null rather than undefined, and I will get null here. So these are two different variables. And also is worthy of note. So we didn't check the for bool. So the boolean type for true is boolean, and also for false is also boolean. So the type of undefined is undefined. That's a type. It's a type of its own. And the type of null is string. It's object. So the type for null is not actually a null as you would think, but it's object. There have been reasons in JavaScript community to change these, but I don't think it's going to be changed anytime at any point again. I think these have come to stay and would be there. So let it not confuse you. It's null, but it's an object. So it's a type, but it's not a JavaScript type, as you would say. But it's something that you would use when writing. It's a data type that you will use when working, right? Null. But when you do a type of on it, you're going to get an object, not null, right? But it responds, when it comes to boolean, it responds as false. So let me show you what I mean. So boolean can be run on any, there's a function called boolean in JavaScript that can be run on any variable. So if I put an empty string, it's false. But if there's something inside within that string, it's true, right? So this is empty, so what the boolean value of this is false. 0 will give you false too, because it's 0. 10 will give you true. So when you put undefined, it gives you false. When you also put null, it also gives you false. So most times you can know that you have nothing just by checking it against making it true, going through the true or false route to know is this guy a null or not. And also I think you can compare your null value, which means that we have UND here. UND is saying null, but type of UND is object. So I want to know, is this item really null? All I have to do is just to say UND comparison operator null. So now I've brought about this. Let me explain it. Okay, so we can compare values in JavaScript. So I think we have come this far. Let's talk about that. So we can compare values in JavaScript. So we have two types of comparison operators in JavaScript. We have double equals to, and the triple equals to. I'll just do it in the terminal here. So let's say we want to compare 2. Is 2 equals to 3? No, you can see false. But is 2 equals to 2? Yes. But now let's say if I put 2 in a string, you can see it's still correct, right? because this 2 and this 2 is the same. So what JavaScript is going to do is that when you use this single dot, when you just use double equals to compare, it's going to coerce. It's coerce comparison. So it's going to take one of them and coerce into the other one. So it's going to compare them and say, okay, this 2 is a number, this 2 is a string. Let's convert this string to a number and see if they match. And then you look at them, the two of them match. So you can say it now says these two are the same. So, but let's say you don't want to do that. You want to make sure that they're in the same type. If it's a number, it's a number I'm comparing. All you have to do is just to use 3. So this 3 is more safe, right? So most times in JavaScript code, you see people using the 3 rather than the 2. And the reason is because so you can get more accurate comparison and no coercion going on. So the 2 will coerce, but this is not going to coerce. This is saying this is a 2 number, this is a 2 a string. No moving around it, no trying to force its way around that. And that is one way. So if I convert this to a string, it works. But if I convert and that one of them to a number, then it doesn't work. So it's a way of comparing two values in JavaScript. So we have talked about the two of them. I think that is comparison coerce and checks for type. Okay. So there's another special value. I think I missed that. But yeah, that we have. And that special value that we have in JavaScript, you wouldn't encounter it a lot if you're not working with numbers. It's called none, not a number. It's just this NaN. So it's a type, right? So, but you only get this when you do manipulation of numbers, when you work with numbers. Let's say, for example, I do 0 divided by 10. Okay, that is 0. Okay, 10 divided by 0, infinity. Okay. So normally in mathematics it should break, but I think JavaScript just sends it to infinity. Yeah, because you keep dividing for all eternity and you never get a result. So infinity is fine. Okay, so how do we get not a number? So let's say I'm trying to coerce. So we have a function, two functions in JavaScript that allows you to convert a no here. Okay, let me try to create a path for this. So we had this comparison operator that took a string 2 and compared it with 2. And we say it coerced this into this. So how does it coerce it, right? Or coerce this other one into this? So there are methods for every variable type you have. There are methods for every data type, basic primitive data type you have. We saw the first one, boolean. We already saw boolean, right? That coerces, that tells you if something is empty or not. So we already saw boolean. We also have string. String takes anything you give to it. It could be a string like this, and returns a string to you. It could also be a number. It could also be a number. You can put number, and it's going to put the number into a string. So it means that if the first one is a string, it's going to put the other number and coerce it into a string too, and then compare the two of them. So that will work. Now also, we have one for number. So for number, we have number. It can convert anything to a number. So you can take 2, 3, convert it to a number 23. But let's say that I decide to be, how will I put it, uncivilized, and then I decide to put 23A as a number. So in trying to convert 23A as a number, you see a letter inside of there, and it says this is not a number, right? This is not a number. So it's telling you that this is not a number, which makes sense. It makes perfect sense. This is not a number. So now, there's also a method that comes with is not a number, that lets you know that something is not a number. So let's say I put a t, and I call this t number a. So if you print t is this, right? But within your code, you can also call a function called isNaN. It's also available just in JavaScript. And isNaN will take this t and tell you yes, true. It's not a number. And if you also pass boolean, which maybe could just solve the problem that you're using NaN. Okay, so this is the difference. So when I use boolean on t, because of t is a value, boolean classifies it as says that this is false, right? So it's not, it's falsy, and then isNaN says it's true. So these two are the same thing basically. isNaN is saying yes, it's not a number, and then boolean is saying yeah, this is not a value. This value is empty basically. You don't need it. You don't want to work with that. But if you really want to know that it's yes, it's something, it's not a number, then you can use isNaN to compare and know this value is not a number at all. So that's one way to know that when you're coercing numbers from one state to another, right? Also, we have a method called pass. So we have pass float and pass int. So these two were brought in to help work with numbers. So let's say I'm working with 0, 0.34567. So this is a float. So let's also say I want to work with this, but I want to only get the integer. So you see, it throws away every remainder here and gives me a number. So same thing with this. So it gives me a number. It doesn't how would I put it? Put it to the nearest whole number. It doesn't do that. It just cuts off everything from the point and gives you the first integer that you have there, which is 0. So you bear that in mind when you're using this. But most likely you might never use this directly. You'll probably use math dot ceiling. So ceiling is going to give you the upper bound of every number. So if I do 0.8, I'm going to get 1 because it's going to move that 8 and move to that. Then you can also use floor. Floor is going to just do the same thing that pass int is doing to you. Just takes the lowest bound and the lowest value and goes this way. So I think there's another one called round. Yes, round. So round, we round up to the nearest. So same thing as C. C is most upper bound, if necessary. Round is to round it up as close as possible as it can. So if I do 4, I still have 0. If I do 5, I have 1. But if I do seal of 4, I still have 1. So because this is closest to 1, it gives you the upper bound of 1. So that's the difference between this and round. Okay. So another way, so we already discussed converting boolean using this. So we put 0 here and we have false, right? Another way to convert stuff from truthy to true or false is by using the double quotation mark. So, or single, as the case may be. Single will give you the opposite value of it, of whatever it currently is, and then double is going to give you the current false value of what it is, just like our boolean will give you. So let's say, for example, I want to know 0 is this value valid. I just put double exclamation mark, I'm going to get false over here. I can also do the same thing for an empty string and I get false. I can also do the same thing for false and I get false. And I can also do the same thing for null and I get false. So that's one way to coerce move them to boolean or force them to be in boolean form, just by putting the double exclamation mark. I think there's nothing much to it. Yeah, then if you put single, you're getting the opposite, just like we say not this. So if it is false, it becomes true, and if it is true, it becomes false. Whatever is on the other side, it just flips it and gives you the opposite value. So let's say you got those are paid school fees, and you're saying if you have not paid school fees, so this person has paid school fees. But I want to know if you have not paid school fees, so you cannot say has not paid school fees. Not has not paid school fees. So basically, you're going to give it the value of that.